All right, and we are live. Welcome everyone to another edition of Deconversion Stories. Today I'm talking with Hashtag Heathen, and is it all right? It's all right to use your name because I think you use it in your Twitter handle, do you not? So it's Casey, right? There you go. Casey, basically what I do here is I talk to people about their journey away from their beliefs and religions or whatnot, and kind of like to start from where you kind of first started noticing that this stuff may not be as true as people are telling you. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And sort of the thought processes and stuff that took you to where you are today, being somewhat of an atheist activist.
Mhm.
So take us back to the beginning stages.
All right. Well, being raised, we were like the Easter Christmas Catholics, so it wasn't really heavily into a lot of religion until my high school period, where my mom found the psychic Sylvia Brown, and
Oh boy.
she has a religion, a church called Nova Spiritus, and it's supposedly an offshoot of Gnostic Christianity. And we started following that. So I read probably all like 40 of her books, and just filled my head with so much woo that it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. I can't believe I believed some of the shit.
I could say the same about some of my old beliefs as well.
Really?
So you're not the only one in that boat.
Oh God. It was so bad towards the end. But yeah, it basically like just some things weren't adding up. And what I looked into were some like science-based speakers on YouTube. And then from there, I went to like the skeptic, and then kind of bleeds into the atheist community. So a lot of videos, a lot of books. But yeah, basically, I ended up here. So I don't believe any woo anymore, especially with getting sick. That
Right.
there's a lot of like, stupid like crystal healing and meditations. Well, don't get me wrong, meditation helps.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
the whole like envisioning angels around you sort of spiel type of meditation. But yeah, and none of those things worked. So I was like, well, maybe this isn't all it cracked up to be. So
Well, so you didn't really, I guess, believe in the Bible and stuff like that at all, or?
it was basically the way that Sylvia put it is that it was more of like a guideline, but they were all allegories. They weren't you weren't supposed to take it literally. They were just like fables, and you learn the moral of the fable, but you don't literally think these things happened. So there wasn't a lot of emphasis on the Bible, either Old or New Testament.
Interesting. I wonder if she said just to take the morals or whatever, the stuff that you could take from the Bible. I wonder if she really actually read the thing, especially the Old Testament stuff where things were pretty nasty
Mm-hmm.
at
Well,
times, right?
psychics, like she would have been burned at the stake. So
It's true.
yeah, I honestly don't know. I don't think she was real deep into Christianity as far as knowledge goes. I think it was more that she could run this religion for herself and make money. So she just kind of came up with rules that this Nova Spiritus church had to live by. And there was Mother and Father God. So they were actually like two godheads. So yeah. Apparently
That's a new one.
Yeah, when I did the story with Mac on Mac's channel of the atheist flashbacks, someone had said, I think it was Snarky that said there was a lot of similarities with like the Wiccan culture that she got into. So apparently they do the whole mother god thing as well.
Yes. I was also ensconced in that at one point. myself. So, yeah, I know what you mean by that for sure.
Yeah.
It was I got kind of, I guess, brought into it through a girl that I was dating at the time.
Okay.
And when she told me that there was sex magic involved, I was all for it. So, being a horny 22-year-old guy, I was easily duped into doing something like that. But
right.
yeah, I mean, after time, you realize that it's just a bunch of horseshit. So
yeah, pretty much.
I talked to her about it. Even today, we'll talk about it from time to time, and she's still quite into it. So it's like, listen, man,
right.
Let me just show you how silly this shit is. And
yeah.
she just doesn't want to take it, I guess, or whatever. But
for a lot of people, they like cling to it. So
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's obviously it's something that if you've been into it for a long time, and she's basically was raised, I think, in her early years as a Christian as well. And then she just kind of broke from it when she didn't like what the books were saying, and decided to follow her own spiritual path, so to speak. And she found her way into that. And I guess it matched her beliefs more, because even back then I remember believing in all kinds of nonsense too. Like ghosts and crystal healing, of course, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which I threw that in the garbage, a while ago. But yeah, actually, I made friends with a lady by the name of Jessica Schaub, I think her name is, and she used to be a guru with all that sort of stuff. Oh yeah, and she's now in the midst of making a movie about just how crazy it got and how ridiculous it is and stuff like that. So.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, she came to me about maybe if I knew some sound engineers and stuff, which I do. Unfortunately, the 3 that I knew were already involved in projects, so she had to go find them from someone else. So, yeah, I got a lot of connections in that sort of field around here, just from relatives and being involved in it for a bit myself. So, yeah. So, was your family ever like biblically religious, or were you guys all sort of down the same path with this psychic lady?
Yeah, it was like Catholic light. My sisters all went through like CCD and everything, but I did not. So, and I'm 8 years younger than my closest sister in age. So by the time I came along, I think mom just didn't really care.
Right.
But she always used the honor thy mother and thy father, and that's how she would say it: honor thy mother and thy father. I didn't even notice until giving up religion and really studying the Bible at that point that it's not. It's honor thy father and thy mother. But she always flipped it. So.
Well, of course. I mean, let's face it. Those books were written, all misogynistic like. So.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, women were worth what, half as much? Like, if a man was worth 100 shekels, then a woman was worth 50, if that. So.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not the best guideline for equality. That's for sure.
Not at all.
Yeah. I mean, I remember reading stories as a kid in like Hebrew school because I was raised as a Jew, and just thinking to myself, this is just nonsensical, like irrational shit that they talk about, about the equality stuff with the men and women. And I actually asked a teacher one time. I said, I out and out asked her I can't remember the exact thing I asked, but it was more or less, why does God hate women so much? So, and she didn't really have an answer for me, which was kind of interesting. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think. See, and we asked hard questions like that in the Bible study I tried to get into. It was like a non-denominational church in the area, and my sister and I, who's also now an atheist, went into the Bible study, and we asked all these questions, and finally it got to the point that the pastor was like, "You just need to have more faith." And we're like,
yeah, you hear that a lot. This is not the answer we're looking for, pal.
No. I'm like, really? You're just not gonna? Okay, all right.
That's like, I watch a lot of hockey, and when the interviewers interview some of the players after, and you go, oh, he'll ask him a certain question, what could you guys have done better in the game? And then the hockey player will go to standard hockey answer number 15, and because we give them all numbers, right? Like, and it's almost like standard. I have no answer for your question, number 2 or something. Yep. You just have to have more faith.
That's what it comes down to. It's like, I don't think so.
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, you'd think that they would collectively get together, at least in some forms of groups, these pastors and ministers and whatnot. And they would actually talk about these questions,
right,
and try to, put their heads together to come up with better answers than something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think so. And that's what we thought. We're like, well, we'll bring questions to Bible study because obviously this guy's a pastor. So he's been through the whole Bible. He knows how to interpret it. He knows this and that. And then, no, you need to have more faith. We were just like, really? This is okay.
Right. Yeah. Shit, I just forgot what I was going to say. I hate it when this happens. I had this bright idea, and I'm like, shit, what the hell was I going to say?
Right.
But anyways, it'll come back to me in a few minutes. Now, did you grow up with any like your friends or neighbors that were quite religious, and were they kind of shocked at when you became an atheist, or even some of your family members that may have been?
Yes, my family members definitely. A lot of the friends I lost touch with after getting sick. So I don't actually talk to a whole lot of people from like way back, but I have one sister who's a fundamentalist Christian, and she pretty much told me when I came out as atheist, she's like, well, you have a cold black heart. And as you notice in chats and stuff, I use the black heart proudly.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
So, because I was like, I'm the same person as 5 minutes ago. Just one opinion has changed, and all of a sudden I'm a horrible person. And she's barely, we're civil, but she doesn't really like see how I'm doing or anything like that. So she really kind of slowed ties there.
Wow.
So, but I have another sister. I have 3 altogether. One's an atheist, the other one's fundamental Christian, and then another one who goes to the same church as my fundamentalist Christian sister. It's a non-denominational, and she is all accepting though, like no judgment. She's very kind. It's helping her get off of drugs. So I'm very happy that she's able to find something to rely on for that. But so it's like I have the whole gambit of flavors of sisters to run through as far as religion goes.
The only thing you're missing is somebody who might be into Scientology, I guess.
Yeah, some weird cultish thing.
Yeah. That one kind of blows me away with some of the stuff when you learn about. There's a lot of people when they get sucked into Scientology, they don't really realize what they're in for until.
Okay.
Well, I think most people nowadays know about the whole Xenu and all that shit because it's pretty out in the open about now. Right. But which is probably why their recruitment numbers aren't as what they once were.
Are they slowing?
Yeah, as far as I know, I remember looking it up a few months ago. And they were saying that they didn't have quite the recruitment that they used to, like in the 90s and stuff like that. Because that information wasn't really out as much then as it is now. And of course, you can look anything up now on the internet, right?
And the computers and the phones and whatever you want.
Yeah. Absolutely. Although we tend to find the answers we're looking for according to our biases, because you can get both sides, right? When you look stuff up. So it's always a good idea, especially what I always suggest to people is I actually have a bookmarked link here on my computer that tells you the most commonly accepted or most accepted peer review type websites and journals and stuff like that. So, which if you can't find what you're looking for in that, then chances are you're not looking at something that is legitimately peer reviewed or whatever.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, there's so
Um,
many journals out there that are basically pay to play. So
mhm.
you just pay whatever amount and you'll get published, but it's not going to be something legitimate.
No, no. And there's plenty of them too, which is kind of scary,
Yeah.
really. It's kind of worrisome to me because a lot of people might, use them as a source. And then when you dig a little deeper, you find out that, oh, I see. So they bought their peer review,
Right.
so to speak.
Yeah.
And now how do I trust this now? Oh man, I shouldn't have had those junior chickens after lunch. I was so hungry, man, because I had basically didn't bring much with me for lunch today, and I always end up going through like a drive-through or something on my way home just so I get back here in time. And I ordered a few of them junior chickens, and because they're pretty tasty, but yeah, they always give me heartburn later. I'm trying to kill it with beer now.
Oh, we haven't seen that. Greg has, my fiance has really bad heartburn.
Oh yeah,
He almost has to sleep upright like all the time. But
wow.
yeah,
No, I haven't had it that bad where I've had to sleep upright. Well, one time, but it was because of a homemade deep dish pizza where we just put way too much spicy sauce and cheese on it, and that kept me up all night. That one.
yeah, I bet.
Wow. So that doesn't seem like you really had all that much to walk away from.
Not a whole lot. I mean, I really delved into the whole Sylvia Brown thing. Um, but before that, it was just like a passing um acquaintance with religion as opposed
Okay.
to something that I really went into. And I remember I don't know how Greg put up with it. We've been together for let's see, 12 years now. And
Oh.
when we first started dating, I was still into the woo shit. So I
Mhm.
would bring stuff to him and I'd be like, "Hey, isn't this really cool?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, sure." And there was one time
was he was he ever into anything like that?
he went to Catholic school for 12 years, and so it was in the middle of high school in like a biblical lessons course that he just decided it's all bullshit. He's like, "Yeah, this is all bullshit." Like, okay, well, fair enough. So he went. That was it. Gave it up. But they were really, really religious.
Almost sounds like he rage quit. Screw this shit. I'm out of here. It's all fake.
Pretty much. It just dawned on him one class, and he's like, "This is bullshit. This is all bullshit." But he didn't go through like a woo phase or anything. That was it. He was done. But
You went from like one side of the coin to the other
yeah,
almost overnight, I guess.
yeah, pretty much.
I wonder what it was that tipped him off.
I don't know.
Did he ever tell you that?
I don't know specifically what it was. I know it was like a Bible studies course. They were looking into the Bible, so it was something to do with that. Um, but yeah, I never had the like religious school experience. He had a great first day. It was his first day of school ever, and his parents came and picked him up, and the nun walks him out to the car, and he gets in the car, and she looks at his mom and says, "God bless you," and she walks away. And they're like, "Okay," and they're like, "Greg, how did school go?" He goes, "Good. Do you know there's a thinking chair?"
That seems almost ironic.
Really?
Or
Yeah.
not ironic, but sort of
Ironic?
oxymoronic. It's more like what I mean. A thinking chair.
Yeah,
Is that the one where they teach you how not to think? Or
I think so. Yeah, kind of like the timeout chair that they had. So
yeah. Does this thinking chair in the corner make you wear a dunce cap too, or what?
pretty much that's what it was. He was in an all boys school until age 16 when they moved from Chicago to Green Bay. And then he went to a school and he's like, "There are girls here." What is this?
Yeah. All right.
He said all the band kids from the boys only school, they all had girlfriends because band was a mixed class. So
Oh.
the girls' school across the street and the boys' school would play together for band. So all those guys had girlfriends, but the rest of them didn't.
Play together. I wonder if there's any one time at band camp stories or anything like that.
I don't know. I played the tenor sax was my main instrument, so you don't get the whole band stories with that one. That would be a little bit different.
that would be like I'm thinking Guinness Book of World Records type material there. Well, I didn't do band camp as a kid, but I did go to a Jewish camp called Camp Miriam, and they had this. I had these old cabins, and one half of one of them was just all the mattresses that weren't in use. They just toss them in there, and that's where all the kids used to go for makeout sessions.
Oh,
nice and comfy. I was in there a few times.
We were like hardcore. We went to a camp once, and it was through school, so it wasn't like a religious camp. But like each little cabin, they were separated. Like girls were on one side of the compound, boys were on the other, and they each had a teacher like monitoring. Like the teachers swapped shifts to be awake and monitoring the doors. So like nobody, like I think one of the boys got in trouble for trying to streak, but was caught after like 10 feet. So that was about it.
10 feet's not too bad when you're considered you're under a watchful eye.
And
so I would call that a success.
Yeah.
Especially in that kind of camp. Yeah, we used to do raids on other cabins, but of course the counselors had to prearrange it, so to speak, with the other counselors, so they knew what was going on. Sure. But the kids didn't know, right? So we'd go in, and I think the worst one we ever did was the earlier in the day we went down to the beach because we were literally right on the beach and collected up as much seaweed as we could, like kelp and seaweed. Yeah. In the middle of the night, we went and put it all over their floors. So in the morning, when they got up in the morning, they put their feet right down into some nice wet seaweed. Oh yeah, you should have heard the screams. Heard, oh my God, there's a crab in here. I guess someone grabbed a little crab and it was still in there. Well, yeah, but we had to clean it up after too. So I mean, we're responsible for our own messes, I guess. But which I was fine with.
That was the one camping experience I had was in the middle of winter, and that was the first time I ever got frostbite. And I'll still feel it in my left foot because the teacher who was leading us on the cross-country ski trails, there was 2 trails. There's one that was a half an hour, and that's what we were supposed to be on. And the other one was 3 hours.
Oh, geez.
So we went on the wrong one, and we ended up like missing dinner completely. We were all completely froze because we were banking on a half an hour outside, which in a Wisconsin winter is a lot different than 3 hours outside. So, and I'm sure, with being in Canada.
Well, yeah, it doesn't get quite like that here.
Oh, it's horrible. But yeah, so I ended up with frostbite that trip. That was fun.
Oh, wow.
But
I've never had frostbite.
Oh, it sucks. Like I was
I've heard.
In the bathroom with my foot was in the sink, and we were running cold water on my foot, and it felt like fire. Like it did not feel good at all because my foot was so cold at that time. It wasn't like cut off circulation, frostbite or anything. I didn't have to go to the hospital, but yeah, it didn't like feeling didn't come back for a couple hours. So.
Oh man, I can't imagine that.
I was worried.
I think it's like the worst when you just go through pins and needles. I can't imagine what that's
that's
like.
That's how it was with the water running. It was just like needles.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of cross-country skiing anymore.
Where I live, we actually have some hills, so we like to go, downhill skiing here or snowboarding.
Yeah, that's
which I did a few times back when snowboarding was brand new, and I had a piece of shit board that was made out of wood back when they made them out of wood. Yeah, it was called a Crazy Banana, and I went to jump over what I thought was a mogul. And it turned out there was a rock in it, and I landed on this damn rock so hard that I split my board in half. Did the splits, and pretty much, yeah, it was ugly. Let's just say I didn't go down the hills anymore that day.
Oh,
Just sat in the cafeteria drinking hot chocolate and crying. That's pretty much it.
you couldn't have gone because you're bored.
Yeah, well, I could have used a rental. They had a few at that time, but
Still,
this was
is-
probably '89, and snowboarding was really just taking off at that time. So a couple of years later, I had a Burton, so which was the carbon mixed fiber, whatever the hell it was.
yeah, like the
That
Norway.
then I just stopped going, and I sold my board for like $150. I think.
Oh,
I
nice.
think I paid about 800 for it at the time, but
Oh,
yeah, well, I didn't care. I just wanted to get rid of it. Tired of moving it around.
mm-hmm.
Same thing with all my comic books. I gave them all to my cousin because I got tired of moving fucking 20-something boxes of comic books around with me every day.
Wow, that's a good collection, though.
Well, he's got them now, and I told him if he ever sells any of them, I'd just give me 20% to the haul, and fair enough deal. So that should garner me back some of the money I put into them. But I really don't care. I mean, I got them to enjoy them.
Yeah.
And read them, right? I was a total comic book nerd as a kid, so.
Oh, very cool.
As a kid, he says. I mean, my T-shirt pretty much says it right there. Yeah.
That's nice.
So, I never grew up. It's like I said in the last stream I did, growing old is mandatory, growing up is optional.
True. Yes, very true.
Yes, Blue Collar Heathen. It actually, oh no, breaking the crazy banana board was not at Whistler. It was at Cypress Mountain. Yeah, Sassy Atheist wasn't allowed to drink coffee, get tattoos, date, or chew gum until she was 18. Chew gum?
What the hell is wrong with chewing gum?
What kind of parent denies their kids bubble gum? That's a sin in my book.
Oh,
No, that's hilarious.
Drinking coffee, tattoos, and dating, definitely. But yeah, I've never heard of the no chewing gum thing.
No, Sassy had Archie comics. I had one Archie comic, Sassy, and the only reason that I had that Archie comic was because it had Expo 86 on the cover. Archie went to Expo 86, which was here in Vancouver. Pretty much put Vancouver on the map at the time.
Mm.
So yeah, it became really well known after that. All right, so anyway, let's kind of try to get back on topic here. Let's talk a bit about. I want to talk a bit about the Sylvia Browne stuff that you were going through. Did you ever like phone her or anything, or write her letters looking for advice or anything like that?
Not phone, because phoning was expensive.
Yeah,
so,
900 numbers.
Yeah, it was like $150 for a half an hour conversation, I want to say. But
Lord.
We did go and see her. She came to one of the reservations up here. It was about an hour away from us, and we actually got tickets to go see her. So I have a little signed box of like spiritual, I don't know, spiritual cards, like affirmations and shit like that. I have that, which I'll probably like try and sell or get rid of or something, because I really could care less right now.
Use it as kindling in the winter.
Oh, yeah. We could definitely do that. But yeah, we didn't get our number called, so we couldn't ask her any questions. But yeah, it was interesting.
Makes me wonder if it was kind of like fixed, because you might have had questions and they may have gone through them and said, skip that one. So it makes me wonder if they actually picked the ones that they knew they could manipulate others with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, some do. When I was looking into, like, I watched a lot of James Randi videos, who's phenomenal.
Oh, he's great.
I love him. And he said that sometimes they'll have people like that act as audience members, and they're like, hey, what do you hope to hear? And they'll be like, oh, I wish to hear from my grandpa. He died of an aneurysm last year. And then the psychic will be like, I'm picking up on someone's grandpa who died of an aneurysm, something in the brain, so yeah, they do that. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, a lot of them make you fill out cards
We
before
didn't.
they go in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, we were just handed, like we chatted with everybody in the line, but when you went into the, not really an auditorium, but like the banquet hall, you were handed a number. And so you had that number, and then they did a random lottery to pick who got to ask.
Oh, I see.
So
You
yeah,
never got to ask anything.
no.
No. No, do you remember any of the ones that they did pull out, like, and how accurate she appeared to be?
They were vague. Like, looking back on it now, they were very vague. Like, people would ask, "Oh, am I gonna meet the man of my dreams?" And she would say, "Sure, in 4 months' time, he'll be tall-ish with brown hair." And at the time I was like, "Oh, she even knows what hair color. That's awesome." But, like, majority of people have brown hair, so
Yeah.
if you're gonna meet somebody, they're gonna have brown hair. So they were just vague like that at the time I thought were specific. But yeah.
I love how they do that. That's basically like a cold reading method,
Mhm.
right? So because they'll do stuff like, well, somebody's talking to me. Their name it starts with an M. It's me, and then this, oh, Mary, and then they'll jump up and and oh, that's it. And she says that she knows you because she was she was my grandma. Like people literally feed them the information too sometimes because they get so excited.
Which is
And it
never
blows me away.
that until like looking into debunking psychics later on. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, they're literally handing them the information and they're doing these leading questions and
Yeah.
all these things that it makes sense now. But of course, when I was into it, that was nope, that was all psychic, that was all talking directly to God. And well, for Sylvia, it was her spirit guide who
Mhm.
who talked to her, and she also did medium stuff, so she would go into trances, and it was supposedly her spirit guide, telling her things from the vast beyond.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, they would be the only ones who would know what was in the beyond. It would be these spirit guides.
Yep.
But yeah, and it's. I used to just laugh at that kind of stuff, and then later on, when I became a lot more, we'll say, skeptical, once passing through all this wooey nonsense, I used to get angry at people like that because I literally thought, these are people. They're just unscrupulous people that are taking advantage of desperate people that often can't even really afford to be in this fucking building with them, but they saved up for weeks just to go see Sylvia so they could get a message from Aunt Harriet that died 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
The worst case that I got really pissed about learning was this mother. She used to be on Montel Williams' show. I think it was once a week. So she would be on there, and people in the audience, I don't know if they paid or were, called or contacted by the show to be on there. But there was this one woman, and she said, my daughter went missing, 5 years ago or whatever it was. And she told her, your daughter's dead. And
oh yeah.
not really where to find her or anything, just that her daughter was dead. The woman ended up passing away a few years later, of heart problems. And like a couple years after that, the daughter finally got free from the captor who had kidnapped her. And she was alive. She was alive the whole time. So like that pisses me off royally.
I think that happened a couple times to her.
Yeah, I think so.
That she said someone was dead and they found her. Like one of them, I believe, was actually less than a few months after that was.
Oh, really?
Was said, yeah. I think I remember flipping through some of her stories about that sort of thing, and I think it happened more than once. And one was that one, which I remember very much that you just spoke about.
Yeah.
And there was another one where it may not have been a few months; it might have been maybe a few years, but the details are sketchy on me right now. But yes, apparently the woman, the lost child, was still alive, or the couple that lost the child was still alive, and then they found the lady. And they were like, wait, what the hell? Sylvia told us you were dead.
And then how much of that is you give up at that point? You know, you're like, oh, well,
Well, that's it.
yeah, the psychic told me they're dead, so I'm not going to put pressure on the cops. I'm not going to look into this more. We're just going to leave it at that. And that's heartbreaking.
Mm. Now that I think back, I think the second one that I knew about or read about, it wasn't that she was kidnapped, but she ended up in some kind of a cult, and then she broke free from the cult, and that's when she came back. It's just, man. I mean, you know.
Oh, you kind of cut out.
What kind of person do you? Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, sometimes that happens, but it's just what kind of person do you have to be to do
you
that?
Cut out again. Nope.
Did you catch that? Oh yeah, see. Yeah, it's a little choppy sometimes because I share this bandwidth with a bunch of people. So, unfortunately, okay. Well, what I was saying before is, what kind of person do you have to be to take that kind of advantage of people?
Just awful, absolutely awful.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's too bad we couldn't. I mean, Peter Popoff, as you know, following Randy, was exposed by Randy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was flipping through the TV the other day, and the fucker is back.
Are you
again? Yeah. And he's doing the same thing.
Is he doing that healing waters thing where you have to like less water or whatever? Oh.
Yep. Yeah, but it's free.
Oh, well, at least there's that.
He'll send it to you for free. But once you order that, then they just stop. I did it back in the 90s when he was big. And they were, I think they were pushing some holy soil that would help your plants grow. So let's give this a try, just as a ruse, right? And I ordered it, and I thought, oh, this is it. Okay, cool. Chuck it in the garbage, whatever. But I kept getting more and more and more mail from them.
Mm-hmm.
I literally had to call them and say, don't send me any more mail.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. Your soil was garbage.
Right.
So if your God had blessed it, he screwed it up because it just didn't do shit. Right? So I think it was soil or something like that. Anyway, so yeah, and I really wish somebody would put these people out of our misery. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Like not like kill them, but
no, but
let's put them away.
Yeah, because I hear stories of people that have no money left to their name, but they save up and they give to him because they think they're going to get this big reward in return. And he's just leading them is what's happening. So.
Yeah, Peter needs a new Mercedes, I guess, eh?
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah, like some of these, what was this one guy, I think, I don't know if he's a religious leader, but he's got a solid gold Mercedes somewhere in Saudi Arabia or something.
For heaven's sakes.
It's like, I'm sorry, do you need a solid gold Mercedes? You could literally feed half of the people in your country with that kind of money.
Yeah.
But no, he's got to drive around in a solid gold Mercedes. Well, obviously the engine's not going to be solid gold.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. The shit would melt. It'd be the worst Mercedes ever.
Yeah. It goes for like 5 miles and then you're just done. That's it. You have to buy a new one.
Yeah. You like my puddle of gold? Yeah, Sassy, it annoys the shit out of me too. And she's saying it annoys her that she reads about celebrities going to Hollywood mediums for answers.
Yep, and that's huge. What? There's a show, Long Island Medium is one show that's on right now. And she's nutty. Like, she is nutty. But, and there's also like a young kid, a young boy. I don't remember his name or what his show is, but he goes to just celebrities in LA. And that's all these are celebrities, so. Remember his name, though.
It almost sounds like there was another show that I watched for a little bit. I think it was paranormal something or other, where this kid thought he had an experience. So he started this ghost hunting thing.
Sure.
To help other peoples that have had similar experiences to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that a lot of the stuff, including with Ghost Hunters, the original Ghost Hunters series, that a lot of the stuff was set up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, most of those shows are set up.
Okay.
Like, are you familiar with Ghost Hunters? You remember that?
Yeah, I think we were big into, even growing up, Mom was big into woo stuff like spirits and ghosts and stuff like that. So we all thought we had experiences growing up.
Me too.
But, yeah, so when those came out was when she first got cable. So she recorded like all of these, Ghost Hunters shows. And yeah, that was one of her favorites, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, with the bald guy and Grant was the guy with the hair.
Yep.
And they did that one. I think it was a Halloween special where they were at a castle, and Grant was outside and he had a parka on, and you could see something tugging on the parka. Well, he confessed that he actually had a string in his sleeve that he was pulling on and pulling down the back of his jacket. It's like and he literally what he said was, "This is the things we used to do for ratings." Right? So, yeah, and of course they confessed to quite a few of these things being setups. So.
Sure. Yeah, either setups or they make a lot out of nothing.
Yeah,
they'll make noise and they'll be like, "Oh, it sounded like they said, ghost," and you're like, "Oh, it sounded like static. Like it didn't sound like."
Well, they've had a few that I remember watching it and then sitting back, and they would play back these electronic voice phenomenon, as they call them.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they somehow just didn't pick up a cross radio signal or something.
Yep. Sure.
Or which you'd think might be hard to do down in the dungeon of some castle, but radio waves and stuff like that and frequencies work really funny that way. So it's not impossible. For example, when I'm at work, we use little radios at work just to stay in touch with, we got an incoming waste truck, blah, blah, blah. And we pick up little blurbs of things from people that are like 4 blocks down from us.
Yeah.
But they come through really, really faint, like a lot of these alleged voices on the EVPs did as well. Of course, they're a little bit more staticky, but I think that they were probably just able to clean it up so it sounded a little bit more air quotes legit. Right. Yeah, the things they'll do to sell products on TV, man. They'll come up with all these crazy shows just so they can stick the commercials in there. Yep. Yeah. Well, we've gone for about 45 minutes, so I don't know if you want to maybe just take this to an after show a little earlier than usual.
Sure, we can do that.
All right. And you're down for that for a little bit?
Yeah, I can stay for a bit.
Okay, awesome. Then what I'll do is I will we'll hang up this call, and I'll send you a new link because I already have it set up, and we'll have a few friends jump in, and we'll just carry on the conversation about this kind of crazy stuff.
All right.
Sound good to you? Well, thanks, Casey, for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun talking with you.
Thank you for having me.
And it's been a little different because I don't really go into the whole medium thing and stuff like that. So this was kind of a fresh thing for me. So it was a lot of fun. Awesome. And once again, thank you. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today for our conversation. A little shorter than usual, but we'll get into an after party and have a little bit more fun. I can really only go for about an hour and a bit. So I'll try to get this one started soon, but I'm going to do my usual. No, it's my mom. I'll give her a call back in a minute. I'll try to do, about an hour and a bit. So anyways, guys, thanks again for tuning in and hanging out with us. As I always say at the end of these conversations, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, guys, remember, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. See you guys.